Here we are, guys, in part 18 of this story. In the land of waves, our favorite blonde encounters the Kyuubi. Watch the subsequent events unfold as Naruto uses the power that was sealed inside of him on the day of his birth. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now, let's begin. "Why am I not surprised?" said Kurama. "That pervert really was just on a research trip," commented Naruto. Naruto and Jiraiya found themselves in Kantona Town, a town in the south of the land of hot water and a town known for its many hot spring baths. "Hey, Uro-sennin," said Naruto. Jiraiya turned his head to the blonde. "Why the hell are we here? I thought we were going to Uzushigakure." "Calm down, Naruto. We are, but this town is a nice stop before we take a boat to the island. We'll be here for a few days, so just relax and enjoy yourself, because after this we will pretty much be camping. There is nothing left on the island of the land of whirlpools. Consider these our last few days in civilization before heading out into the wilderness," said Jiraiya. "Just admit it, you old pervert. You're just here for research," said Naruto. Well, I kind of do have a deadline that I have to meet for the final draft of my next book by the end of the week," admitted Jiraiya. "I knew it. We are just on a research trip," shouted Naruto as he began freaking out. "You said you were going to teach me Fuinjutsu, but now you're going to be spending all day peeping on girls in the baths." "Quiet, brat," said Jiraiya, shushing Naruto. "I said I would teach you Fuinjutsu and I will, but I also have other things that need to get done. Don't worry, I'm almost done with my book, and all I have to do is finish the ending chapter. It won't take me more than a week. After that, we'll go to Uzu. Besides, you're going to be spending most of this week reading a bunch of scrolls on the basics of Fuinjutsu." "What? Reading?" complained Naruto. "But I don't want to read. I thought Fuinjutsu was going to be fun and exciting." Jiraiya sighed. It was around this time that they arrived at a bar restaurant to get some food. "Listen, Fuinjutsu is complicated. It requires two things to even begin: knowledge and creativity. You already have the creativity aspect, but you still need the knowledge. If you don't know how seals even work, then there is no hope in even learning them. Just read the scrolls I have until you understand the very basics of seals, and then I'll help you to learn actual sealing. Okay?" "But why can't you just teach me everything from the beginning?" asked Naruto. "Because, this is just something that you have to do. If I just told you everything, I'm afraid it would just go in one ear or out the other ear, or I would forget to say something important, or I would say something out of order. I used those scrolls to teach your father. Besides, if you want to learn Fuinjutsu, it's going to require a lot of studying. This isn't like becoming a master of ninjutsu or jinjutsu where you can just repeat the jutsu over and over again until you get it. This is completely different. So just put up with it for the rest of the week, study your scrolls during the day and just relax during the night. After this week, there isn't going to much time to truly relax for the next few weeks," explained Jiraiya. "Fine," said Naruto, a little disappointed that he would be stuck basically reading for the next week, but he couldn't help it. He would give the scrolls a chance and then complain to Jiraiya later. The rest of that night, Naruto did as Jiraiya said, relax. They had found a hot springs bath where Naruto was simply relaxing while Jiraiya, let's just say his attention was diverted towards other places, particularly the bath on the other side of the divider. The following day, Jiraiya was busy working on the rest of his book while Naruto had finally decided to pick up the scrolls. After all, the sooner he finished them, the sooner he could get back to bugging Jiraiya to actually teach him. Naruto opened up the first scroll and began reading. Scroll 1, What is Fuinjutsu? Fuinjutsu is as its name implies. It is the art of sealing techniques. It is also a very misunderstood art. Most people see Fuinjutsu as simply that, sealing. For the most part, they see it as simply sealing weapons inside scrolls. It however is much more than simply sealing a simple tool inside a scroll. In terms of sealing an object of power within something, a tool being sealed inside a scroll is the simplest form of sealing jutsu. Another simple form of sealing is containing energy within a slip of paper. In other words, these are paper bombs. They contain some sort of energy, usually fire and heat, which is released in an explosive manner when the seal is released. The pinnacle of sealing was seen when beings were sealed within other beings. This was most prominent during the early days of the Shinobi world, before the establishment of the great nations and hidden villages. During this period in time, it was common for humans to seal other beings, primarily demons, within themselves so that they could try and tap into the demon's power to enhance their own strength. Early methods of this sealing were unsuccessful as the more powerful demons would usually absorb the consciousness of their human vessel, only becoming more powerful themselves. This trend occurred of the first 500 years of the practice until the Sage of the Six Paths successfully sealed the Jibi inside himself to prevent it from wreaking havoc on the living world. The Sage of the Six Paths is considered to be the founder of modern-day jutsu and was exceptionally gifted at sealing techniques. However, despite his power, his time eventually came to an end. Out of fear of the Jibi being released upon his death, the sage used his power to split the Jibi into 9 parts, creating the 9 Bijou. For the next 300 years, the practice of sealing demons in humans continued, but no success. It wasn't until the year 341 CE that the sealing of demons proved successful. It was then that the Bi was securely sealed into a human. It was at this time where the term Jinchuriki was invented for someone who contained a demon and could tap into its power. This term was given because the human vessel for the demon gave up their prospects for a normal life, but in return they were actually able to tap into the power of the demon sealed within them. Until the year 752 CE, the only successful sealings of demons were the sealing of the Bijou. The reasons why only the sealing of the Bijou were successful are still unknown, but it is believed that it was because the Bijou were considered chakra monsters that humans were able to tap into their power and contain them more easily. Whereas many of the other demons used a different form of energy from chakra to sustain themselves. In the year 752 CE, the attempted sealing of the fox demon known as Hikare failed, resulting in the death of the demon, the first true death of a demon at human hands, particularly the Hoshiruka clan who used to be located in a prominent village northwest of current-day Earth Country. Following the failed sealing, the Hoshiruka clan was obliterated by the Kyubi no Kitsune, the most powerful of the fox demons. Reasons behind this attack are still unknown, but it is believed that the attack was out of retaliation for death of Hikare. Ever since then, the sealing of demons, with the exception of the Bijou whose sealing has been proven successful, has pretty much stopped to avoid any accidental deaths of more demons and potential war between demons and humans. In the year 973 CE, the Kyubi no Kitsune, the last of the unsealed Bijou, was finally sealed following the fabled battle between Senju Harishima and Uchiha Madara. Naruto put down the scroll as he felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and regret from within him. However, it wasn't his own emotions. "Kurama, is something wrong? I just really wish you wouldn't have read that," Kit replied Kurama, trying to keep himself together. Naruto had never seen the Kyubi like this. It just brought back some painful memories. "Huh? Was it concerning your own sealing? I mean, you've never been happy about that," said Naruto. "Kit, right now, I could care less about my sealing. At least I survived, but she..." "What are you talking about?" asked Naruto. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to the first line of the last full paragraph he read. "No, you don't mean..." "I do. Kit, why do you think I attacked the Hoshiruka clan? What did you almost do when you found out that Mutt Boy was responsible for your vixen's injuries? What would you do if you found out someone killed her?" "She was your..." said Naruto in disbelief. A rare tear came to Kurama's eyes. "Yes, Kit, she was my vixen." "Kurama, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring back those memories," apologized Naruto. "It's okay, Kit, you didn't know," replied Kurama. Jiraiya had put down his pen and turned around to see Naruto staring off into space. "Naruto, is everything alright?" "Yeah, I just found out something that was kind of hard to take in," said Naruto. "Well, why don't we get something to eat, to help get your mind off it? I hear there is a ramen shop in this town," said Jiraiya. Naruto instantly perked up at the mention of ramen. Sadly, this shop wasn't mentioned in his passport, but the ramen was still pretty flavorful. Following lunch, Naruto resumed reading the first scroll. It didn't contain much more besides a bunch of examples of Fuinjutsu, besides actually sealing. Reading the list, a few applications of Fuinjutsu that stuck out to Naruto were amplification, transportation, barriers, and even medicine. He hated to admit it, but that first scroll was surprisingly interesting. Naruto put the first scroll aside and picked up the second scroll. Scroll 2, the seal. Sealing formulas used in Fuinjutsu are comprised of 2 main components, the central kanji and sealing matrix. Every seal has these 2 components and each component serves a vital function of the seal. The central kanji is what gives the seal its identity. It is the central kanji that distinguishes a storage seal from an amplification seal and an explosive seal from a containment seal. While these are usually written as kanji, It is possible to use symbols as kanji if one is skilled enough to incorporate them into the seal. The use of symbols in place of kanji usually results in making the seal more powerful, but it requires a much more complex sealing matrix. Some seals may even contain multiple kanji or symbols. These seals are considered the most advanced form of fuinjutsu as they must perform multiple functions to achieve a single purpose. The seal matrix is also much more complex than a seal with a single central kanji or symbol, as the matrix has to connect and integrate multiple kanji. The sealing matrix is a series of interconnected symbols and characters that serve to manipulate the chakra present in the seal so that it can perform the designated function of the seal. The sealing matrix can perform multiple functions, including moving chakra throughout the seal, enforcing the seal to make it stronger, manipulating the chakra to perform an appropriate function, and much more. Every seal needs those two components to function. Without one, the other cannot function. With only a central kanji, the seal knows what function it needs to perform, but it does not contain any of the tools to perform said function. With only the sealing matrix, the seal has the tools to do what it needs to do, but it doesn't know what it needs to do. Naruto continued reading through this scroll and even reread it. So much for getting through it quick and bugging Uro-sennin to actually teach him. He started on the third scroll, which was a scroll explaining the theory behind the storage seals, until Jiraiya got up and they went to dinner. Naruto had no idea that he had been reading those scrolls all afternoon. He couldn't believe it. This fuinjutsu was actually interesting and he didn't even care if it meant reading a dozen or so scrolls on the subject before he could even begin training. Jiraiya just told him that it must be something he was meant to do, like it was in his blood. In a way, it made sense as he was the son of two great seal masters. The rest of the week was spent with Naruto reading over the rest of the scrolls. The remaining 10 or so scrolls that Naruto had focused on some of the more common types of seals: storage, explosion, barrier, amplification, sealing, and seal removal. The last few scrolls were dedicated more onto explaining how to design the seal itself, primarily how to design the matrix and the components required to get the seal matrix to perform the proper operations. Evenings were spent with Naruto trying to track down Jiraiya at whichever hot spring bath he was in, followed by Jiraiya up late at night trying to finish his book. The last night they were supposed to stay there came and Jiraiya was busy freaking out how he was still missing the last dozen or so pages of his book. He had been up for the past 50 hours trying to figure something out until he finally collapsed from exhaustion. Naruto looked over at his exhausted master and sighed before walking through the sea of crumpled up papers on the floor. Naruto then took the last few pages Jiraiya had written in the manuscript and read them. Unlike Jiraiya, ideas flooded into his head and he began writing what he thought was a suitable ending to Jiraiya's book, including a small adult scene that wrapped up the next Icha. Well, he had to have some idea on what was going on in the adult scene. After all, he's been hanging around Jiraiya for the past few months and he invented the sexy jutsu. This was not a good week for Sasuke's fangirls. He had been hospitalized almost a month ago after sustaining injuries from when Orochimaru had tried to abduct him. Tsunade had tried her best to keep that quiet, but word surrounding the truth of the ill-fated mission spread too fast for her to control. Before she knew it, the entire village knew that Sasuke and his team were ambushed by freaky sound ninja. But what really made things worse was that earlier in the week, he had just disappeared from the village. Usually, the fangirls were able to track Sasuke down after a few hours. Some of the Shinobi fangirls even used some ninjutsu they knew to facilitate in finding him, like Ino using her mind transfer jutsu to take over a hawk's mind to search for Sasuke from an aerial perspective. However, they had no luck at all. Rumors began spreading between them that Sasuke had either died from his injuries or had run off to join some pedophile who liked to play with snakes. These rumors were mainly started by boys who had gotten tired of all the girls in the village fawning over Sasuke. Regardless, there were a few fangirls who accepted these rumors and then they spread like wildfire. The only Sasuke fangirl who wasn't freaking out was Sakura. Despite her noticing Sasuke missing, she had also noticed an absence of a particular silver-haired jonin. She was smart enough to deduce that Kakashi-sensei had to have taken Sasuke on some sort of training trip. Besides, she would see him in a few months when Team 7 reconvened before the Chunin exams. As a matter of fact, Sakura didn't even have time to worry about Sasuke. She had begun her training with Tsunade in full and she was already being drilled on chakra control exercises, human anatomy, poisons and antidotes, and anything medicine. For her, it was pretty much 8 AM to 10 PM studying and learning the basics of medical ninjutsu. On the days that Tsunade had given her a break, or at least let her go home early, Shizune had offered to teach her how to fight with poison senbon. Sakura saw the value to this, thinking it would make her that much more useful in the upcoming Chunin. A few days, Sakura was even lucky to run into Haku who, after being asked, agreed to help Sakura learn to throw senbon in combat. Yesterday, Haku and Sakura had a sparring session where they fought each other using only senbon. Needless to say, Sakura looked like a mix between a human and a porcupine afterwards. She was just happy Haku had used some duller senbon so that they didn't pierce as deep. Regardless, her skills with the senbon were showing improvement after her first week out of the hospital, and it was only a matter of time before she was able to use them proficiently in combat. For Hinata, it was a lonely week. She had been in Konoha for most of the week as her team had not been given many mission assignments. Normally, that wouldn't be a bad thing, if Naruto were here. Instead, she was stuck in Konoha with just her father and family. Neji had been assigned to a mission, and while she didn't mind being at home, there was still a great deal of tension between her and Hanabi from their most recent spar. She was at the training grounds right now, trying her best to work on her wind chakra manipulation. It was early morning and her father had some business with the clan to deal with before he could focus time on training with her. Ever since after the Chunin exams, she actually liked training with her father as he was becoming more open and less harsh. The one thing that did trouble her a little was that he was still training her in the Juuken, which she was finding more and more uncomfortable the more she advanced with it. Neji was right, she wasn't well suited for the Juuken due to her wind nature. Taking the next kunai, she held it, working on channeling her chakra. She really wanted to get through this step as she would then be able to begin the next part of her training, which her father had mentioned would be to incorporate her wind chakra into the Juuken. His personal hopes for her were that a wind-enhanced Juuken would result in a much more powerful strike. If he was right, this could finally get the elders off Hinata's back for a while. Despite her progress, everyone else in the main branch still saw Hinata as weak and unworthy. He figured it was because they saw that Hanabi had much more potential in the Juuken and as the Hyuga clan heir than Hinata, and saw training her as a waste of time that could have been better spent on Hanabi. As a father, he hated how the rest of the family was playing favoritism towards Hanabi, which was the main cause behind this inferiority complex that Hinata, Hiyashi, and Neji were afraid she was developing. Hinata focused her chakra into the knife, taking a few extra seconds to try and refine it as best as she could before tossing the knife. The kunai left her hand, sailing towards the training post she was using. A crack was heard and Hinata examined her result. The knife had sailed clean through the post, embedding itself in the ground behind the post. She had done it. This phase of wind manipulation was complete. Jiraiya let out a big yawn. Damn it, I fell asleep. And I've only got a few hours left before I have to send the manuscript to my publisher for editing and publishing. What makes it worse is I still don't have any idea what to write, said Jiraiya. He then took a look at the blank pieces of paper in front of him, only to realize they weren't blank. Sitting in front of him was the completed final chapter of the book, but it wasn't written by him. This is. Jiraiya took a look over the chapter sitting in front of him. It definitely wasn't his handwriting on the paper, but it was familiar handwriting. He took a look at the paper and then to the sleeping blonde in the next room. No, it couldn't be. Naruto couldn't have finished it, thought Jiraiya. Well, let's see what the brat wrote. If anything, it will give me a good laugh. Jiraiya spent the next 20 minutes reading over the manuscript. He hated to admit it, but it was good. Even the small adult part that was included was good. The chapter was just lacking some consistency with the rest of the book, but that was easy enough to change. He had an idea now on how to write the last chapter, and he began writing, using Naruto's ideas, but just adjusting them to better fit the story. However, he didn't notice that said boy had woken up and was looking over his shoulder. "Uro-sennin," shouted Naruto, making Jiraiya jump. "Brat. Don't do that," replied Jiraiya. "Now go get ready because we are leaving after I finish writing the last chapter." Naruto sighed as he walked off to go pack his stuff. I guess he didn't need my help writing that after all, thought a slightly depressed Naruto. He had thought what he had written was good and was hoping for some form of acknowledgement from Jiraiya. A bit later, Naruto came out of the room, everything packed and another of the few Injutsu scrolls read. Jiraiya was busy now sealing up the envelope that contained the manuscript for his next book, Icha Violence. Jiraiya looked up at the boy. "Hey Naruto, thanks. It really helped me get over that writer's block," said Jiraiya, holding up the envelope with the manuscript. "You know, if you ever decide to give up on your dream to become Hokage, I'm sure you could make a good adult novelist." Naruto knew Jiraiya had actually used his work now, but that still didn't mean he was happy about Jiraiya suggesting he should write more Icha books. "Oh, don't worry Naruto, it's only a matter of time before you come over to the dark side of the perf," thought Jiraiya, grinning. The two left Kantona town shortly after checking out of the town and mailing the manuscript to the publisher. Jiraiya had to admit he was surprised that Naruto had actually taken to the scrolls on Fuinjutsu that he had given him. He was honestly expecting the blonde to have started bugging him by the end of day 2, but instead Naruto had only asked for a few examples of seals to look over. Regardless of that, their next stop was the port city of Shikuzuma, their last stop before the ruins of Uzumaki. It was late in the evening when they arrived. The sun was already beginning to set and they were standing on a cliff overlooking the port and ocean. Jiraiya pulled out his spyglass that he would normally use for peeping but aimed its gaze off into the ocean. "Hey Naruto, take a look over in that direction," said Jiraiya, handing Naruto the spyglass and pointing off towards a distant island in the ocean. He couldn't make out too much of the island except for what looked like an old rundown pier and a few whirlpools surrounding the island. "Is that?" asked Naruto. "Yep. Uzumaki," said Jiraiya. Naruto couldn't believe it. He was almost there, almost at the home of his ancestors. "Alright, let's go. Get to bed early because we've got to leave early. We need to pass the reefs surrounding the island tomorrow between 1 and 3 in the afternoon or we risk getting sucked into the whirlpools that surround the island," said Jiraiya. Naruto gulped a little at the thought of getting sucked into a whirlpool but went with Jiraiya to the town anyways. "Hey Rosenin, so when are you actually going to start teaching me Fuinjutsu? I mean like actually teach me? I've already read the scrolls over a few times and I think I get them. I don't know why. I never really liked reading scrolls and stuff during the academy, but for some reason these were interesting," said Naruto. "Hey, well it's good that you finally began to read some stuff. As to why you actually like the subject, it could be because you come from a long line of seal masters, not to mention your dad was one of the best there ever was. As for when I'll begin teaching you, we'll start when we get to the island tomorrow. I've made arrangements for a few fishermen to get us through the reefs tomorrow and then pick us up about 3 weeks later. That should give us ample time to find something that could help my task of finding a way to remove the caged bird seal and to teach you some of the basics in Fuinjutsu. Sound good?" asked Jiraiya. "Can't wait to get started, T-Bio," declared Naruto. "Gah. That bastard. He'll pay for doing this," cried Orochimaru in one of his hideouts. He was sitting in his throne with bandages around the stumps he had for arms. After a sage-powered Rasengan practically tore them off Orochimaru. "Orochimaru-sama, please settle down," said Kabuto. "How can I, not too long after I regain the function of my arms, that bastard of a teammate Jiraiya rips them off again," hissed the snake. "Please Orochimaru-sama." Kabuto was cut off. "Shut up Kabuto, unless you have a way to give me back my arms," shouted Orochimaru. "Well, I don't right now, but I think I know who does, or did, have a way to grow back body parts," said Kabuto. Orochimaru knew Kabuto well enough to know what he was talking about. "You're talking about the Uzumaki, aren't you?" asked Orochimaru. "Yes Orochimaru-sama. If anyone knows how to design a regeneration seal, it's them. With your permission, I would like to take an expedition with me to see what we can recover," said Kabuto. "Also, I'm going to need her. You see, I don't think I'm going to be able to access the information without her. She can be quite a handful, you know that Kabuto. But nonetheless, if it will get me my arms back, then I'll allow it. You have 2 weeks," said Orochimaru. "After that, I expect you to get right to work giving me my arms back." Naruto couldn't believe it. He was finally there, the village of his mother's ancestors. The village itself was in ruins, but he had kind of been expecting that. However, based on the ruins, he could tell that Uzumaki used to be a great and powerful village. Jiraiya guided the two of them over to a collapsed building just outside the center of the village which he decided would make for a good base camp. He went around, putting a few barrier seals up, providing them protection. While it wasn't a common occurrence, there were occasionally bandits who would come to the island and try to loot anything valuable that may have been in the ruins. Despite that, Jiraiya was still confident that they had not managed to break into the archives of the village, which is where he suspected the clan scrolls the Uzumakas had were being stored, under the protection of blood seals. No one without Uzumaki blood was going to get into the clan scrolls, and thankfully for him, Naruto was an Uzumaki. "So Orosenin, what are we going to do first?" asked Naruto. "Are we going to get the Uzumaki scrolls, or are you going to teach me Fuinjutsu?" All of the sudden, Naruto's stomach began to growl and Jiraiya laughed. "We'll start examining the scrolls tomorrow. Let's grab a bite to eat and I'll teach you a few things as well," said Jiraiya, taking a scroll from his pack and unraveling it to reveal a seal on it. "Alright, so what type of seal do I have on here?" It looks like a storage seal, but I don't know what those markings around the center are," said Naruto. I guess he has been reading the scrolls a bit. That's not exactly a standard center for a storage scroll, thought Jiraiya. "Well, you're partially right. It is a storage seal, but it's also a preservation seal." Jiraiya released the seal. And much to Naruto's delight, a few bowl of ramen puffed into existence. After taking a few slurps of ramen, Naruto was surprised that they were still warm. "Wow, I can't believe this ramen is still fresh," said Naruto, finishing off the first bowl and moving on to the second one. "That's the preservation seal for you. It's not permanent preservation, but it's good enough to keep a few bowls of ramen fresh for a couple of days," said Jiraiya. Naruto then moved on to the third bowl, and the fourth bowl. Well, it looks like they weren't having any more ramen during the trip. Jiraiya then went into explaining the basics on how to make a storage seal, starting with the simplest storage seal, and he would eventually go into the more advanced storage seals, like the preservation storage seal he used on the ramen. It was getting late in the night and the two were about ready to turn in for the night. However, Jiraiya wanted to have a little fun with the blonde. "Hey Naruto, about the last chapter of the book you wrote, thanks." "Huh? Oh, yeah. I just thought it was the least I could do, after everything you've done for me," said Naruto. "Huh? What do you mean by that?" asked Jiraiya. "Well, you know, everything. From training me back in the Chunin exams, to coming to get me once you figured it was Orochimaru that sent us on that mission, to telling me about my parents, and even teaching me Fuinjutsu. No one's ever really done that much for me. You know, you might be an old perv, but you're pretty cool at times," admitted Naruto. Jiraiya smiled warmly upon Naruto saying that. "Thanks Naruto. So does this mean you'll stop calling me Uro-senin?" "Nope," said Naruto without any hesitation. Jiraiya's head dropped in defeat. "I just call them as they are, and even if you are a cool ninja, you're still just a perverted old sage." "Humph, says the boy who wrote a perfectly good adult sex scene and invented the sexy jutsu," said Jiraiya. "If I didn't know better, you're a perv as well." "What?" refuted Naruto. "I'm not a perv." "Then answer this. When you saw Hinata in that dress, what were you thinking?" "I'll bet it was something perverted," said Jiraiya, getting that perverted look on his face. Naruto's face instantly went red and he began sweating profusely as he searched for a not-so-perverted answer. "Well, you see, checkin' mate. I'm sorry kid, he's got you there," replied Kurama, getting a laugh out of it. "Gah ha ha ha, alright, that's enough messing with you for one night, Urogaki," said Jiraiya, flustering Naruto. "Hey! Who are you calling perverted, Uro-senin? At least I don't go wandering into women's bathhouses," replied Naruto. Sure, whatever you say," said Jiraiya, as he crawled in his sleeping bag. "I doubt you've never snuck into a woman's bathhouse to invent that wonderful jutsu from Kemi." "Whoa," exclaimed Naruto. Jiraiya and Naruto had come to what the Uzumakis had called the Hall of Sealing, the place where they had stored all of their knowledge on sealing techniques. They were standing in the middle of a large dome structure with the only light coming through a hole in the ceiling. However, through a careful arrangement of mirrors, the light managed to illuminate the entire hall. "Hey Uro-senin, what are all these compartments?" asked Naruto. Looking around the circular room, he could see the walls lined with various compartments. "Oh, those? You see, every Uzumaki family had their own notes and techniques on sealing. While a lot of their techniques were common knowledge amongst the clan, every member had a few seals and techniques that were unique to their family. Think of it as a time capsule," said Jiraiya. "This room was built underground and protected by a number of barriers that we already came through, which is why his room is still intact despite the entire village being in ruins." "Cool. Do you think any of them are mine?" said Naruto. "Well, it really depends on your ancestors. Those lockers have blood seals on them that are designed to open with the blood of a descendant of the person on the locker. Usually lines concentrate their lockers around each other. So there may be a chance there is more than one locker if your ancestors left multiple lockers," explained Jiraiya. "Alright, their archives are over there, beyond those doors. However, I need you to open the doors for me." "Right," replied Naruto. Jiraiya and Naruto made their way across the room to the double doors with Naruto unlocking the blood seals on the archives. "Now, I'll be in here researching for a little," said Jiraiya, catching the look on Naruto's face. And it's not that kind of research. Now, why don't you go and see if you see open any of those lockers? You know what to do, just smear some of your blood on the locker. If the seal opens, then it's yours. Let me know what you find. Oh good, you're here, said Kakashi, reaching the top of a cliff. I've been here for nearly 2 hours, said a slightly irritated Sasuke. Well, you see, there was this little bird that needed my help. Just can it, said Sasuke. Kakashi chuckled. Kind of like last time, isn't it? Asked Kakashi. Yeah. Although there is more on this cliff than the one we camped out during the exam, said Sasuke. The last time, they were on top of a small bluff overlooking a barren wasteland. This time, it was more of a high cliff overlooking a forest that they had decided to camp out on. So what are we doing this time? Glad you asked. We'll be here for a little more than a month before heading back to Konoha and leaving for the exams. And while we're here, you'll be needing these, said Kakashi, pulling out a few weights from his pack. Are those? Well, kind of. Lee just had training weights on. These are chakra weights. Put them on and I'll explain, instructed Kakashi. Sasuke put the weights on, which felt like nothing. Once they were secured onto his arms and legs, Kakashi smiled and activated a seal. Sasuke was instantly thrown to the ground. The weights had to weigh at least 500 pounds each. What the hell? Swore Sasuke. Those are chakra weights. Right now, they weigh 400 pounds each. However, they were designed to have their weight reduced to only 10% if you constantly floated chakra into them. One problem you have is your chakra capacities are lacking. While you'll never be Naruto level when it comes to chakra reserves, training with these on will certainly help you build them up, explained Kakashi. Sasuke tried putting some chakra into the weights and struggled to get himself up. It took a few minutes, but he finally got the amount of chakra to balance out and he could move with a little bit more ease. He looked over to see that Kakashi had the same thing on. What, you didn't think you were the only one training, were you? Wait, you train? I thought all you did was read those books and walk around looking for old ladies and cats to help out, said Sasuke, making fun of Kakashi's excuses for being late. Nope. I train as well. Besides, if I didn't train with you, then you would probably surpass me in skill in a year or two, and I can't let that happen, now can I? Said Kakashi, smiling. Sasuke smirked, knowing his teacher wasn't all that lazy. For Sasuke and Kakashi, a few days passed. This was mainly physical conditioning and Kakashi trying to build up Sasuke's stamina and chakra reserves. Whenever Sasuke began getting frustrated with this, a simple phrase like Naruto would have run 10 laps around you by now was usually sufficient to get Sasuke back on his feet. By the end of their first week, Sasuke could already feel the increase in stamina he had from wearing those weights, not to mention he had noticed an increase to his speed as well. Perhaps Lee had something going for him using those training weights. Not to brag or anything, but I told you before that I know over 1,000 jutsu, said Kakashi. Sounds like bragging to me, muttered Sasuke, quiet enough for Kakashi not to pick up on it. Anyways, I'll be teaching you as many of them as we can do. Now, as I said last time we did this, your primary element is lightning with our second element being fire. I know the extent of your fire jutsu and I happen to know the lightning variant to your Kaden, dragon fire jutsu, explained Kakashi. He took out a few wired shuriken and tossed them at a tree, wrapping the cords around the tree. Raiten, lightning dragon jutsu. Electricity and sparks traveled down the wires just as the fire did in his. Dragon fire jutsu. Jolts of electricity were sent through the tree, splintering it, until it eventually broke. I need to remember to bring Tenzo with me next time if we don't want to run out of trees. Sasuke followed Kakashi's lead, throwing a set of wired shuriken at a tree. He then proceeded to channel lightning chakra into the wires. The electricity traveled down the wires and into the tree, splintering it, but not breaking it, like Kakashi's tree had done. Not bad for a first attempt, said Kakashi. That was better than my first attempt at it, but even with your Sharingan, you may be able to copy a jutsu to the point where you can use it, but you're not going to master a jutsu the first time you use it. Naruto was getting frustrated. He had spent nearly the past 2 hours going through lockers. He was starting to get to the end of the lockers, and so far, nothing. GRR, why won't these stupid lockers open? I've already shown that I really am a Uzumaki by getting Urosenin through the blood seals, now why won't these stupid lockers open? Shouted Naruto. Oh? Having any luck there? Asked Jiraiya, joining Naruto. No. None of these stupid lockers want to open, said Naruto, slamming a slightly bloody hand into another locker. This time, the seal glowed and disappeared. Hey! There you go, said Jiraiya. Taking a look on the door, the plaque read Haru Uzumaki. Why do I recognize that name? The excited Naruto opened the door to see what was in this vault. Inside were a few scrolls, a framed picture and what looked like a letter. Naruto picked up the picture and saw a man standing next to a woman who closely resembled his mother. In the mother's arms was a small baby wrapped in blankets. The woman had the same long red hair as his mom, but her eyes were a little too narrow to be his mother. The man standing next to her was also a red-haired man. His hair was shorter and a little spiky. He looked to be wearing some sort of shinobi gear. His face was more defined than his mom, but he noticed that his eyes were the same as his mother's. Naruto picked up the letter, wondering what it said. My dearest daughter, Kushina, I hope you have grown up well into a strong and beautiful woman like your mother. I sincerely wished we could have seen you once more, but with the combined forces of Iwagakure and Kusagakure on our doorsteps, it will be a miracle if we see you again. I have sent you to Konohagakure, our sister village, for your protection. Should you ever find your way back to the great city of your ancestors and come across this letter, know that your mother and I have always loved you. Love. Haru Uzumaki and Hayase Uzumaki, your mother and father. These were, said Naruto, almost speechless. Looks like they were your grandparents, Naruto said Jiraiya, placing his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Here, this will make it easier finding the rest of your lockers. Jiraiya had taken one of the more ornate scrolls from the locker to find that it was actually a family tree. They found the next locker a few lockers below the one that belonged to Naruto's grandparents. According to the family tree, this belonged to Naruto's great-grandfather, Morio Uzumaki. Again, inside the locker, he found a number of scrolls and this time a rather unique forehead protector. This one had the Uzumaki spiral carved in it. Buried deep in the back was also what was a bound red and black book. After taking a quick look through it, Jiraiya realized that it was a book of highly advanced seals, the ones that the Uzumakis were famous for. The next name on the tree was the one that was most surprising to Jiraiya, and given the book of sealing techniques they found in the last locker only gave more credit to the possibility of what he was thinking being true. The next name on the tree reads Shuichi Uzumaki, Naruto's great-great-grandfather. They found the locker a few lockers over and Naruto placed his blood on the seal while Jiraiya was busy holding his breath, turning purple when Naruto felt the urge to scratch his back before opening the locker. Just open it already, shouted Jiraiya, releasing all the air that he had held in his lungs. Geez, why are you in such a hurry? Got a hot spring that needs researched? Asked Naruto. Just open the locker. I need to know something right now, said Jiraiya. Naruto sighted his impatient master and placed his hand on the seal. The seal glowed before dispelling and Jiraiya's jaw nearly dropped. Naruto opened the locker and his jaw dropped along with his master's. Sitting inside the locker was a quadrilateral cage hat with the Uzumaki insignia on it. Urasenin? Asked Naruto. He really wanted to know now, was his great-great-grandfather a Kage? Well, what do you know? Looks like you're related to two Kages, Naruto said Jiraiya as Naruto's eyes widened. Shuichi Uzumaki was the Shodaime Uzukage and the one who made the founding alliance with the Senjus and Konoha in the beginning days of the villages. He was also one of the best seal masters of his time, which explains the book his son had in his locker, explained Jiraiya. Naruto then did what was expected as he grabbed the old cage hat from the locker and placed it on his head. There were a few tears and smudges, but what else did you expect of a 100-year-old hat? What was under the hat made Naruto's eyes grow wider, if that was even possible without his eyes taking up all of his head. Underneath the hat was a katana with a black hilt wrapped in red bindings and a black sheath with a red wave-like pattern. At the end of the hilt was the Uzumaki icon. Naruto unsheathed the sword and it was brilliant. He didn't know much about swords, but even he could tell it was an exceptional piece of craftsmanship. Hey, if that's what I think it is, then what a find, said Jiraiya. Huh? Wait, what? You know more about this? Said Naruto. The Uzumaki Shio no Ken, I believe. It's about as famous in the shinobi world as the Nidaime Hokage's Raijin. It was thought lost when the city was destroyed. Who would have thought that it would be here in the archives and that a little brat like you would be the one to find it, laughed Jiraiya. Wow. Really? What makes it so famous? Asked Naruto, jumping up and down, nearly knocking the hat off his head. I really can't say, not too much is known about that sword, but the legends say it ranks right up there with the Raijin and the Seven Swords of the Mist, so it must have some kind of special power or something, said Jiraiya. But still, what a day it has been. Who would have thought that you would be directly related to the Shodaime Uzukage and find this old sword? "Hey, Uro-sennin, does that mean you'll teach me how to use a sword?" asked the already excited Naruto. Well, you see I'm not so much of a sword expert," said Jiraiya. "Oh come on. What's the real reason you won't teach me? It'll take up too much of your research time?" said Naruto. "Gah," said Jiraiya, coughing in response to Naruto's comment. "In all honesty though, I'm no sword expert. Although I think I might be able to pull a few strings with the totes. Some of them are rather skilled in kenjutsu." Naruto was so happy as he and Jiraiya returned back to their camp. He had his hat full with scrolls and the journal they found. Unfortunately, he was a little too happy that he didn't notice one of the scrolls fall out from the hat and roll underneath a pile of rubble. When they got back to the camp, Jiraiya basically went through all the scrolls they found. Some were sealing scrolls, some were kenjutsu and taijutsu scrolls that detailed the Uzumaki style in each discipline, and then there was one scroll titled The Treasure of the Uzumaki. Naruto couldn't resist as he undid the seal on that scroll. Releasing the seal, a small black book popped into existence. Naruto opened the book to see what was so special about it. "Yata" was heard all across the elemental nations, especially in Konoha. Many people there recognized the voice. "Hey, was that Naruto?" asked Sakura. A few of the Konoha 13, Team 8, Team 10, and Sakura were at the training grounds sparring with one another when they heard the scream. "Sure sounded like it," replied Kiba. "Even when he's not in Konoha, he still finds a way to make a scene." "So what do you think he did this time?" asked Ino. "I don't know, knowing Naruto it was probably some stupid or perverted jutsu," said Sakura. Hinata, who was there as well, went red with the mention of perverted jutsu. Her Naruto would never do something like that, would he? "Have some faith in your comrades," said Shino, startling most of the Jonin there. "He probably just mastered an amazing technique." "Well, I heard Master Jiraiya mention something about sealing and Fuinjutsu. I think he got past an important stage in Fuinjutsu," said Hinata. "Naruto? Fuinjutsu?" Ino said, having an incredibly difficult time connecting the dots. "Nah, he probably devised some way to prank the village," said Kiba. At this time Shikamaru and Kuuji got done discussing something with one another. "You're all wrong, and Kuuji and I have 100 Ryo that says yours," said Shikamaru coming forth. "Fine, Mr. Smarty Pants," said Ino. The remaining 4 or 5 Jonin there accepted the bet as well, even sweet little Hinata. "So, what do you think it was?" "It's troublesome really, but there is only one thing Naruto gets that excited about," said Shikamaru. Everyone else was listening in for Shikamaru and Kuuji's answers. "Munch, ramen, munch," said Kuuji in between handfuls of chips. In about a month time, Shikamaru and Kuuji would be a couple hundred Ryo richer, as it did indeed have something to do with ramen. Naruto had just hit the jackpot. The treasure of the Uzumaki was none other than a collection of about a dozen special ramen recipes. He couldn't wait to get back home and see if Tucci could whip up a few bowls of this. A few weeks passed with the general day looking something like Jiraiya would be in the library researching and he would be teaching Naruto the basics of designing seals. Naruto would try to make a seal, test it, and watch as it blew up in his face. As an end result, Naruto would get a little frustrated and Jiraiya would get a laugh. Something encouraging would be said to Naruto and Naruto would laugh along with Jiraiya. It had taken about 2 weeks of dedicated practice before Naruto finally succeeded in making his own working storage seal. Jiraiya figured that they would celebrate that night by breaking out the remaining ramen he had sealed away. It wasn't as good as the first time they had ramen, but the preservation seals had done enough to keep the ramen still tasting good. "Don't worry, Naruto. The hard part was making that first seal, but now that you know how to do that, storage seals should be no problem. You know how to make the central components for the seal and the rest is just adding on," said Jiraiya, giving his students some encouragement. The rest of that week was spent with Jiraiya finishing up the research and Naruto continuing to practice the storage seals. He was showing much improvement with the storage seals and now it was only a matter of time and practice before he had the concepts of storage seals mastered. The same could not be said for Jiraiya's project. For 3 weeks, he had been sorting through countless scrolls on seal removal and various other things, only to come up with nothing so far. Nothing that could remove the caged bird seal without killing the original bearer. It wasn't until late in the evening on December 29th, the day before the fishermen were scheduled to pick them up and they would return to Konoha, that Jiraiya finally found something. The funny thing was that it was not a scroll on seal removal, it was a scroll on a certain type of medical seal. However, this seal worked along the lines of cell preservation and regeneration. Perhaps if this could be applied to the removal seal, the deaths of the neurons could be prevented when the caged bird seal was removed. This would definitely be something he and Tsunade would have to look over when they got back. But Jiraiya smiled nonetheless. He was finally over his sealer's block that had stopped his progress on finding a way to remove it, and his brain had begun clicking again with ideas on how to get rid of that accursed seal. "Naruto, let's go," said Jiraiya. Naruto, in the middle of scribing his own storage seal, lifted his head. "Did you find something that can help, Uro-sennin?" asked Naruto. "I think so. I'm going to need Tsunade's help with this one though. Let's head back to camp and get packed. The boat will be here for us early tomorrow morning," said Jiraiya. They left the archives with Naruto trotting along ahead, thinking of what everyone would say when they saw his amazing sealing talents. It was then that he felt a tug on his jacket collar as Jiraiya quickly pulled the blonde behind the crumbled wall of an old building. "Hey, Uro-sennin, what?" Naruto was interrupted when Jiraiya put his hand over Naruto's mouth. He gestured, pointing over to a few people walking through the ruins. Naruto could see that they were ninja. When one of the ninja turned their head, he could easily see which village they were affiliated with. Sound. They left the archives with Naruto trotting along ahead, thinking of what everyone would say when they saw his amazing sealing talents. It was then that he felt a tug on his jacket collar as Jiraiya quickly pulled the blonde behind the crumbled wall of an old building. "Hey, Uro-sennin, what?" Naruto was interrupted when Jiraiya put his hand over Naruto's mouth. He gestured, pointing over to a few people walking through the ruins. Naruto could see that they were ninja. When one of the ninja turned their head, he could easily see which village they were affiliated with. Sound. "What are the Sound doing here?" asked Naruto. "I don't know, but it can't be anything good," said Jiraiya. "Well, what are we waiting for then? Let's go kick some Sound ass," said a brazen Naruto as he tried to run off into the group of Sound to attack them and kick their ass out of Uzu. He was held back by Jiraiya once again. "Just hold on. We don't even know why they're here or even how many of them there are," said Jiraiya. Summoning Jutsu. Jiraiya summoned Gamakachi. "Yo," said the small orange toad. "Hey! We need you to do some scouting for us. There are a bunch of Sound ninja on this island and we need you to find out how many there are and if there are any distinguishable individuals," said Jiraiya. Gamakachi nodded and hopped off to do his scouting. He then turned to Naruto and went through the summoning hand seals again. Summoning Jutsu. A small orange toad appeared that had multiple white folds across its midsection. "Hey Uro-sennin, who's that?" asked Naruto. "Hey Jiraiya, is he who I think he is?" asked the toad. Jiraiya nodded to the toad. "Naruto, this is Jiratora. He's the keeper of the key to your seal," said Jiraiya. "The key? So Uro-sennin does have the key," said Naruto. Kurama nodded and smiled. "Naruto, after your last encounter with the Sound, I'm not taking any chances. Whatever they're here for, it can be for no good. And I think I know why they're here," said Jiraiya. "Now, you told me that those 4 Sound ninja transformed into monsters and you had to use a large portion of the Kyuubi's chakra to beat them, correct?" "Yeah, but what does that have to do with the Sound being here right now?" asked Naruto. "Because, if I know Orochimaru, there is a good chance that there are more of those freaks here. Also, realize we can't let Orochimaru have his way with this place. There are too many powerful secrets here for us to allow the Sound to have their way. And you're not ready to take on those freaks on your own. In fact, even with me, you're not ready to take them on. However, you have something that can beat them and that's the Kyuubi, but we can't have you going unconscious afterwards, so we are going to loosen your seal to allow you to draw on the Kyuubi's chakra longer," said Jiraiya. "Really?" said an excited Naruto. "Are you sure about this, Jiraiya?" asked Jiratora. "I am. While I still don't fully trust the Kyuubi, he's proven that he's not quite what we thought he was. If it wasn't for the Kyuubi, there is a good chance Naruto and his team would have been dead, multiple times. I won't fully unlock the seal just yet, but loosen it enough to extend the amount of time Naruto can spend in that 4-tailed form," said Jiraiya. He then turned to Naruto. "Naruto, you understand what I'm about to do, right?" Naruto nodded. "Good. Now does the Kyuubi understand that if he does anything that I don't approve of, I will make the seal so tight that getting out will be the last of his worries, once he figures out how to breathe again?" "Touchy. Fine, tell that pervert I understand and I won't try anything funny," said Kurama to Naruto. "He understands, Uro-sennin," said Naruto. "Good. Now you and I are going to have a long talk regarding the Kyuubi chakra after we deal with the Sound. Understand?" asked Jiraiya. Naruto wasn't sure what this talk entailed, but he wasn't looking forward to it. Still, he knew the sound had to be taken care of, and if any of those freaks showed up, he would need the Kyuubi's chakra to take care of them. Naruto nodded and Jiraiya copied the key onto his own arm. He activated the key and pressed it into Naruto's seal, loosening it by a few turns. Naruto and Kurama could instantly feel the effect of the weakening seal as their connection with one another strengthened. "Hey Kurama, what do you think?" said Naruto to his inhabitant. Looks like I might be able to push you to a seven-tailed form now. Still, the four-tailed form should be good enough for those freaks, and I think you should be able to hold it for maybe upwards of 15 minutes now," replied the fox. "So?" asked Jiraiya, wondering what Naruto was feeling. "He said this could get me to 7 tails, and I should have 10 to 15 minutes in the four-tailed form," said Naruto. "Good. That should be enough for the sound." Just as Jiraiya said that, Namikaze returned. "Looks to be about 20 or so sound ninja," said the small toad. "Anyone in particular stand out?" asked Jiraiya. "Yeah, there was this guy with gray hair and glasses that appeared to be the leader," said the toad. "Kabuto, that's not good if he's here," growled Jiraiya. "Anyone else?" "Yeah, there was this girl standing next to him that had red hair. I thought she sensed me, but hopefully I was wrong," said Namikaze. "Damn. They might just have an Uzumaki with them. Do you know if she was a prisoner or if she was working with them?" asked Jiraiya. "Hate to say it, but she didn't look like a prisoner," said Namikaze. Then that's not good. "Naruto, move," shouted Jiraiya. The two moved just in time to avoid a barrage of kunai and shuriken heading their way. "Well, it looks like you were right, Karen. We weren't alone," said Kabuto as the two overlooked the location where Jiraiya and Naruto had been hiding out. "What do you mean looks like? My mind's eye of the Kagura never lies," said a slightly frustrated Karen. "Regardless, we can't have them alive, especially if one of them is Jiraiya of the Sannin and the other is the Kyuubi brat," said Kabuto. He turned to the squads of sound ninja that had accompanied them. "Kill them. We'll take their corpses back to Orochimaru-sama and he'll surely reward you all." 16 sound ninja took off towards the location where Jiraiya and Naruto had retreated to, having received their location from the red-headed Karen. "Kabuto, do you really think that they can beat Jiraiya of the Sannin?" asked Karen. "No, but it will give us enough time to take a look around and gather the sealing scrolls. You know where the medical scrolls are, don't you?" asked Kabuto. Karen nodded, pointing towards the entrance to the Hall of Sealing. Naruto and Jiraiya were forced to scatter once again as a wave of sound ninja descended upon them. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," shouted Naruto, creating dozens of clones. The clones engaged some of the sound ninja as some others got through the wave of orange and engaged Naruto and Jiraiya directly. Naruto ducked underneath a pair of thrown kunai only to find that his legs had been taken out from underneath him. He rolled just in time to avoid the slash of a sword that went through the air where he had been lying just a second ago. Naruto managed to regain some ground, now facing 10 of the sound ninja. His clones had only managed to incapacitate one of the sound ninja before they were defeated and Jiraiya was busy fending off the other 6 sound ninja. Naruto made another clone and the two nodded at each other. Naruto threw a few shuriken at the sound. To the sound, a few shuriken were nothing and they were practically laughing at the blonde's futile attempt. If only they had taken notes from their fallen comrades from the invasion during Konoha's Chunin exams. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Futon, Gale Bomb. Naruto and his clone shouted in unison. Before the sound could eat their laughter, the few shuriken turned into 200 shuriken before they were picked up by the gust of wind and sent hurling at an increased velocity towards the unsuspecting sound. The shuriken were too fast for most of them to react to, and only the few sound that were able to shield themselves with their comrades were able to survive the assault. 3 sound ninja were forced to retreat, not wanting to face another barrage of shuriken from one little boy. Naruto looked over to see that Jiraiya had easily dispatched his attackers. Of course they were no match for a Sannin. "Huh? Uro-sennin," shouted Naruto, pointing towards the hall to see Kabuto and Karen enter the chamber. Both Jiraiya and Naruto took off towards the 2 sound, hoping to stop them from obtaining any of the Uzumaki sealing knowledge. Kabuto and Karen ducked just in time to avoid a pair of kunai whiz over their heads. When they looked behind them, they saw Naruto and Jiraiya running towards them. The two ran further into the chamber, hoping to beat the 2 Konoha ninja past the blood seals. "Enough time, my ass," swore Karen. They were almost to one of the main doors when 2 puffs of smoke appeared in front of them, revealing Naruto and Jiraiya in front of them. "Rasengan," shouted Naruto, catching Kabuto unexpectedly in the stomach and sending him flying out of the hall. Jiraiya's methods were a lot less damaging as he simply had to tackle Karen, sending her into the Jiraiya and Naruto that were originally chasing them. The Jiraiya and Naruto that were restraining Karen disappeared, revealing them to be nothing more than shadow clones, while the two kunai had been Naruto and Jiraiya transformed. The real Naruto and Jiraiya looked behind Karen to see an obviously injured Kabuto forcing himself to his feet, having thrown a pair of knives at the shadow clones. "I must say, Naruto, that attack of yours is really something," said Kabuto, regaining his breath. "It made me look at my own self-regeneration since our last meeting and try to improve it." He stood up straight, still in obvious pain, but not compared to the last time he got hit with the Rasengan. The three sound ninja who managed to escape from Naruto and Jiraiya found their way back to the camp, where a heavily restrained orange-haired man was sitting and talking to himself about killing something. "Are you sure we should be doing this? What happens if he just goes berserk and kills all of us?" asked one of the sound. "We don't have any other option. There is no way we can take on one of the Sannin without Hugo," said another sound as he reached the cage Hugo was contained in. He began unlocking the locks on the cage. "What are you doing? Stop that before I lose it and kill you," shouted Hugo as two of the sound ignored his warnings and kept unlocking the cage. The third sound just stood back and grinned. "This should take care of Jiraiya and the QB Brad," thought the third sound ninja. "Go, now, before I said Hugo, clutching his head as the last of the restraints were removed from him. Before the two sounds could react, a gray, transformed arm shot out, grabbing the head of one of the sound ninja. "I'm gonna kill you." He swung the first sound ninja into the second, sending them flying back, but not before his transformed fist made contact with their stomachs, smashing both of the two sound ninja. He turned to the third sound ninja. "And now, I'm going to kill you too." "Please Hugo, there is no need for that," said the sound ninja, unmasking himself to reveal his identity as Kabuto. Hugo stopped mid-swing at Kabuto. Kabuto was one of the very few people that he could manage to restrain himself against. "But, if you really want to kill someone, there's a particular blonde boy who I believe was a part of the team that killed Kimimaro." "Kimimaro?" said Hugo as he seemed to calm down, but also in shock. "He's dead?" "Yes Hugo. I am sorry. He was sent to acquire Orochimaru's next reincarnation, Uchiha Sasuke, but was killed by the blonde kid and his team," said Kabuto. "I am truly sorry. I know how close the two of you were." "Kimimaro," said Hugo before the transformation fully began to take over his body. "Where is he? I'll kill him." Kabuto pointed in the direction of Naruto and Jiraiya and Hugo took off, screaming, "I'm going to kill him." Naruto and Jiraiya were facing Kabuto and Karen, trying to figure out what exactly it was that they wanted. "Well, perhaps I will tell you, after all, you won't be alive much longer," said Kabuto with his usual smug demeanor. "You see, Orochimaru-sama was pretty upset with what you did to his arms almost 2 months ago. So you're here to get hold of some medical seal to regrow his arms?" asked Jiraiya. "You catch on quickly," said Kabuto as he grabbed Karen and shoved her into a cubby in the wall. Before Naruto and Jiraiya could react, there was an explosion as shards of rock came flying towards them. I'm going to kill you," shouted Hugo as he burst through the wall and charged at Naruto. Naruto barely had enough time to brace himself for the incoming punch as he was sent flying through the roof and out of the chamber. Jiraiya looked on, slightly horrified at the thing that had just smacked Naruto. So he was correct that Orochimaru had sent one of those freaks with Kabuto. He looked over to see Karen running out of chamber as well, and something that resembled Kabuto slumped over a rock. Before going to check on Naruto himself, he took a good look at Kabuto and found that it was only a corpse that had been disguised as Kabuto. The real Kabuto had to be somewhere around here, and he was sure Karen knew where he was. Unfortunately, he had to go check on Naruto to see if the blonde had survived that gruesome impact from a transformed Hugo. Jiraiya followed the Naruto-shaped hole in the roof to find said blonde picking himself out of the rubble and clutching his side as Hugo faced him, ranting on about killing. "Naruto!" shouted Jiraiya, making his way to Naruto's side. "Gah!" grunted Naruto as he clutched his side in pain. "What the hell is that?" "That would be one of those freaks I was talking about. And to make it worse, Kabuto and that red-headed chick got away," said Jiraiya. "What? Then we have to stop them," said Naruto. "I know. But we can't have Ugly here beating on us while trying to find those two," said Jiraiya. "I'll go try and find Kabuto." "Think the two of you can take care of the freak here?" asked Jiraiya. Naruto knew he was referring to him and the Kyuubi. "Naruto, like I said, you're no match for them by yourself. But, If you use the fox, you can take him. Just try not to destroy too much or get yourself killed, okay? Naruto nodded and Jiraiya took off to go find the other sound. What do you want? Asked Kurama. You said 10 minutes in the four-tailed cloak. Right? Asked Naruto. Kurama nodded in response. Well then, hit him hard and fast, I say. Sounds good, Kit replied Kurama as he began to flood Naruto's system with demonic chakra. Hugo looked on in surprise at the transformation Naruto was undergoing. When the transformation was complete, a miniature blood-red fox with 4 tails stood in front of him. He wasn't the only one with some sort of special transformation. Now I'm really going to kill you, shouted Hugo as he ran at high speeds towards Naruto. His fist was caught by Naruto. He transformed it even further, forming a few chakra thrusters coming out of his elbow as he drove his fist into Naruto at an even greater force than before. This was enough to send the cloaked Naruto back into a pile of debris. Damn, he hits hard, thought Naruto. Yeah, for once I get to have a little bit of fun, smiled the Kyuubi. Glad to have somewhat of a challenge for the first time in years. Naruto picked himself out of the debris and faced Hugo. He then disappeared, using his increased speed when in the Kyuubi cloaks catch an unsuspecting Hugo by surprise, sending him into the air. A few chakra arms followed the flying Hugo and continued the barrage while Hugo struggled to regain himself. After a few shots, Hugo finally managed to somehow regain himself and began to block Naruto's blows. The two then continued their melee. Karen was making a run for the sound camp, hoping to rendezvous with Kabuto. Suddenly, she felt something slimy wrap around her. When she looked to see what had caught her, she was freaked out to see that it was the tongue of a frog that had her. Got you, grinned Jiraiya. He spoke a little too late when Karen disappeared in a puff of smoke to be replaced by a few rocks. Karen was hiding behind a collapsed wall, trying to conceal herself the best she could. She knew that there was no way she could handle one of the Sannin, the same group of ninja Orochimaru had descended from. Her best bet was to hide and wait. Karen nearly freaked out when she felt someone's hand clasp her mouth. She turned, wondering if she had been caught, only to realize that it was Kabuto, thankfully. Orochimaru-sama's not going to like this, but even I don't think we are going to be able to get past those two, said Kabuto. But what about Hugo? Surely his rage can kill them. Once he does, then we can get through, said Karen. Hugo has his hands full with something even I didn't expect, said Kabuto, referring to Naruto being able to control so much Kyuubi chakra. Just focus your sensing in that direction and you'll see what I mean. Karen nodded and focused on her sensory abilities, hoping that wouldn't give away their position. What she felt startled her. She could feel Hugo's chakra and the signature it gave out when he was transformed, but there was something else. There was another chakra signature that was fighting with him, and this chakra was enormous and demonic. She had never felt anything like that and she was honestly scared for her life. Kabuto was doing his best to try and calm her down, not wanting to give away their position. However, something else caught Kabuto's eye as he reached underneath the pile of rubble to pull out a scroll. Well, perhaps this wasn't a complete waste after all, he said, reading the scroll. What? Asked Karen, wondering what was on the scroll. Hey, who knew the Uzumakis were capable of something like this? Responded Kabuto, congratulating himself on his luck. We might not have found a way to give Orochimaru-sama his arms back, but perhaps this will more than make up for it. Outside their hiding place, Jiraiya was forced to jump to the side as Hugo came sailing through the air, crashing through the building Kabuto and Karen were hiding in. Kabuto and Karen had managed to regain themselves, after nearly being crushed to death by the falling debris. Naruto appeared before Hugo and the two were deadlocked, matched now in a battle of strength. Out of Hugo's back came over a dozen chakra cannons that were quickly gathering chakra. Karen and Kabuto barely had time to duck for cover before the cannons exploded on Naruto, sending him flying back into a pile of rubble. Unfortunately for Hugo, Naruto picked himself out of the rubble. Karen and Kabuto made their way behind Hugo and Jiraiya, working his way out of the fight. Right now, there was no way he would be able to get Kabuto or Karen without risking getting hit by Hugo, or even Naruto in this case. Kit, let's just end this now before that perverted teacher of yours gets himself caught in the crossfire, said Kurama. Naruto agreed and he began to gather balls of chakra from the air and condensing them into one ball. Karen panicked as her sensory abilities picked up on the energy contained within the ball. Hugo sensed this energy as well and was about to run, but somehow his conscience caught up with him when he realized that Karen and Kabuto were right behind him. Instead of trying to dodge the incoming attack, he began to transform himself into a more shield-like figure, hoping to save Karen and Kabuto as his senses came to him. Naruto unleashed the tailed beast ball upon Hugo, and when the explosion cleared, Kabuto and Karen had managed to survive by hiding behind an unconscious and hurting Hugo. Hugo had managed to survive the attack, but not without taking considerable damage. There was no way he would be able to fight for a while now. Naruto recalled the four-tailed cloak, somewhat exhausted, but nothing like before. The loosening of the seal had managed to relieve most of the strain on his body, and he was still able to hold himself together rather well after using the Kyuubi's chakra. "Like I said, you won't be getting your hands on the Uzumaki scroll," said Jiraiya, joining Naruto's side. "Sadly, it appears you're right. I guess we will be taking our leave now," said Kabuto, grabbing an unconscious Hugo. He shot the two-leaf ninja one of his signature smirks, indicating that this was more than them just giving up. Jiraiya had that feeling in his gut that they had managed to find something after all, but he didn't quite know what. Before he could make a move to capture or kill the three sound, a tremor was felt in the ground and a large snake appeared underneath them, taking the three sound off the island. "I've got a bad feeling," thought Jiraiya. He turned to Naruto. "Not bad, Naruto. You're controlling the Kyuubi chakra rather well." "Really?" said Naruto, regaining most of his energy. "Yep. Oh, and that reminds me, I need to talk to you about that," said Jiraiya. That was the part Naruto was hoping Jiraiya would forget in the midst of all the action. "But before that, we need to go reapply the blood seals and add a few more." "What do you mean by a few more? Shouldn't the blood seals be enough?" asked Naruto. "Normally, I would say yes. But it appears as if Orochimaru does have an Uzumaki working with him. As such, a normal blood seal won't secure the Uzumaki scrolls from him. However, I do have some of that girl's hair and I can use it to modify the blood seals so that they will allow any Uzumaki in, except for her," explained Jiraiya. Without saying much more, Jiraiya and Naruto left to go and reapply the seals. Later that night, Jiraiya and Naruto were back at their camp, enjoying their last night in the wilderness before the fishermen they had hired came and got them. While Jiraiya didn't have ramen on board, the waters surrounding the island were filled with fish and it wasn't hard for them to catch a bounty from the sea. While they were eating, Jiraiya used this time to discuss a few things with Naruto, something the blonde wasn't really looking forward to. "Naruto, do you remember what I said to you on our last training trip? About using the Kyuubi's power?" asked Jiraiya. Naruto recalled that Jiraiya had told him not to rely on the Kyuubi's too much. "Good, now while the past few events have been exceptions, I just want to reiterate that I don't want you relying on that power." "But why, Uro-sennin? I've only used the Kyuubi's power when my friends were in danger and well, now," said Naruto. "I understand that, but now that you can use a little more of the Kyuubi's power, I just need to make sure you understand what it is you are dealing with," said Jiraiya. "I told you back during the trip to get Tsuon that we need for you to be strong on your own, not with the help of the Kyuubi. You understand me, right?" "Yeah, but..." Naruto was interrupted. "Just hold on, I was getting to that. Your dad sealed the Kyuubi inside you to give you a power that you could use to protect the village. And up till now, you've done good restraining yourself to using it, only using that power when your friends and comrades were in life or death situations. I just want you to promise me that you won't get carried away with the Kyuubi's power, only using it as a last resort, and only if you or your comrades will die unless you use that power," said Jiraiya. "Don't worry, Uro-sennin. I won't let it go to my head. I'll only use the Kyuubi when my friends are in danger," said Naruto. "It's not just danger, kid. As a ninja, you have many tools under your belt to deal with various situations. Different tools that can be used to handle different situations. There are many dangers that can be handled correctly by using the correct tools. The Kyuubi's power is one of those tools, but it is one that should only be used as an absolute last resort. Only used if there is no other way to save your friends," said Jiraiya. "Do you understand where I'm going?" "Yeah, I think I do. Basically, don't rely on the Kyuubi unless people are going to die," said Naruto. "Sadly, even I agree with the pervert on that one, kid. My power's not to be taken lightly. I can do a lot, helping you. But, once the results of my power have been felt, there will be consequences. Some good, some bad. I cannot tell you what they will be, but there will be consequences of both kinds. The good consequences will seem to outweigh the bad at first, but it won't be too hard to make the bad consequences outweigh the good," advised Kurama. "Now, normally I would do everything in my power to influence you into using my power and eventually using it to try and get you to free me in some way, but I don't want to. I want to try this way, as I already know the consequences of what will happen if I try and force my way out. Alright, thanks for that, responded Naruto to the fox, before turning his attention back to Jiraiya. Don't worry, Uro-sennin, I'll think next time before using the Kyuubi chakra. Good. Now, getting back to what we can do about you, the Fuinjutsu you are learning is more of a supplementary art. You won't be able to use it that much in combat until you become more proficient in it, so we've also got to focus on your ninjutsu and taijutsu, said Jiraiya. And the sword too, right? Said an excited Naruto. Maybe. I'll teach you the sword, but I don't quite think you are the sword type, said Jiraiya. Naruto sent him a pleading look. But, that doesn't mean it won't hurt for you to learn how to use one. Anyways, back to the Uzumaki taijutsu, it is a powerful form of taijutsu once mastered. We don't have the time to teach you right now, but we will once we leave for a few years. Hey Uro-sennin, about that trip, how long will we be gone for? And what will I be learning? Asked Naruto. Well, we'll leave after the Chunin exams and we will be gone for at least 2 years, but possibly a bit longer. As for what you will be learning, to put it simple, a lot. You'll be learning everything from taijutsu and ninjutsu, to advanced sealing, hopefully. There is a reason why I'm letting you participate in these Chunin exams, and it is the same reason why Sasuke and Sakura are also being allowed to, instead of waiting till after your time of training, said Jiraiya. Really? I thought you were just giving us another chance to get promoted again, said Naruto. Well, that is a possibility. You may be promoted, but what Kakashi, Tsunade, and I really want to see is where the three of you are at before we really get started and what desperately needs to be improved, said Jiraiya. Okay, but I'm still going to get Chunin this time, declared Naruto. I'm not going to stay a Jonin forever. Hey, anyways, I do have something you can work on, but first let's see how your wind chakra is, said Jiraiya. Naruto nodded and took out a kunai knife, ready to show Jiraiya his improvement. He waited a moment, channeling the chakra into his regular kunai before throwing it at a collapsed wall. When he released the kunai, it shot through the wall and even the wall behind it. So I see you've pretty much got that down. Well then, I think it's time for a new jutsu, don't you? Really? What sort of cool jutsu will it be this time? Bounced Naruto. Jiraiya handed Naruto a scroll. Futon, great breakthrough, said Jiraiya. It's a C-rank jutsu and an improved version of your Gale Palm that releases a more condensed and powerful blast of air at a target. Why don't you work on that for a little, and if you manage to get it down before the exams, well, I'll let you pick the next wind jutsu you want to learn. Really? What kinds of jutsu can I pick? Asked Naruto. I'll tell you what. If you can master the jutsu and you can show either myself or Tsunade, if I'm not around, we'll let you pick out a B-rank wind jutsu from the village jutsu library, said Jiraiya. Really? A B rank? Just watch, Uro-sennin, I'll have this jutsu done by the end of the week, D-by-O! Exclaimed Naruto. Whoa there, we've still got to travel back to Konoha. And there are still 4 weeks till the exams. I'll tell you what. If you can get the jutsu done within a week of returning to Konoha, then that will give you a good 2 to 3 weeks to work on that new jutsu. But for now, go to bed, we've got to get up early to meet the fisherman, said Jiraiya. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.